today. But we're going to start in the book of Acts, chapter 2, and verse 41. We're going to start there in a moment. But let me just look at you guys for a second. Oh, y'all look good? Look good? Look good? Look good? Okay. A couple questionable people here and there, but you guys look good for the most part. Everybody doing good? Feeling good? Okay. I heard, what's the groundhog's name? Phil? Okay, I don't know what, that was praying in tongues, the last part you said. Phil? Did you see the weather started changing? Phil said we're going to get an early spring and it's going to warm up. So that's what I'm believing for personally. I like warm weather. I like hot weather. I like the sun. Thank the Lord that the sun has come back out and we can see the sun again and it's getting warmer. So praise God for Phil. Praise God for, let's be thankful for Phil today. He said spring's coming early. I want to say a couple things before we get into the book of Acts. And I just want to acknowledge somebody today, and let's celebrate somebody today. There is somebody who turned 80 years old this week. And her name is Miss Donna Atkins. Come on, stand up, Miss Donna. Okay, let me say some nice stuff about you, because that's what I'm acknowledging, that you turned 80. If you don't know, Miss Donna, right over there, and I call her out during services and joke with her, and like probably people that don't know me are like, why is he picking on this 80-year-old grandma over there? Because she's like my mom pretty much. So my mom's in heaven, so she's a substitute for me to joke with. So Miss Donna has been our church secretary at this church since 1990. I was 3 years old in 1990. She has been our church secretary, and she has taken care of the finances at church, and she's taken care of me since I was a little kid and prayed me through to be able to be the pastor of this church. Y'all, you better thank her. You wouldn't have a pastor without her prayers. I could have been a wayward son, but her prayers drew me back in. There was times that people like Miss Crystal, that's my other mama right there too. Miss Crystal and Miss Donna, they loved and prayed for me more than my own mama because she got frustrated with me at times. So I just wanted to acknowledge Miss Donna today. She turned 80 years old this week. We celebrated her as a staff on Thursday. We went to Malone's and ate a good meal. She's been on staff, like I said, since 1990, 34 years. But we want to acknowledge her because our church would not be the church we are without Miss Donna. The prayers that she has prayed, the things that she has done, we would not be here without Miss Donna. You know, I've said before, people like Brother Les and other people are pillars of the church. Miss Donna is the pillar of the church. And we want to acknowledge her today and celebrate her today. She's 80 years young. We always say she's pert near 100 in staff meeting. Her whole family works on staff, so we can joke with her. But she's a young 80 years old, and we just want to acknowledge her today and say, we love you, Miss Donna. Don't we love Miss Donna? And we're thankful for all your prayers. And look at the legacy you're leaving at Church on the Rock. And you know, there's some fruit here. You know, when your kids, your grandkids, and your great-grandkids all go to the same church, that's your legacy, Miss Donna. So we want to acknowledge you today because you're awesome, and I love you, and you believe in me more than most people do, and pray for me, and I appreciate that. And we wouldn't be the church we are without you, Miss Donna. So we love you. So happy 80th birthday. Come on, let's celebrate Miss Donna. 80 years young. So we love you. I'm sorry I made you cry. She's known for her laughs because her laugh literally fills the entire church building. So we love you, Miss Donna. Okay. Let's look at the book of Acts, Acts chapter 2 and verse 41. This is the account of the early church. It says, those who believed what Peter said were baptized and added to the church that day, about 3,000 in all. So there's 3,000 people on the first day of the church. And all the believers, notice that, all the believers, all 3,000 people that just got saved, plus the 120 that were in the upper room, all the believers, notice what they did. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to sharing in meals, including the Lord's Supper, and to prayer. A deep sense of awe came over all of them, and the apostles performed many miraculous signs and wonders. And all the believers met together in one place and shared everything they had. They sold their property and possessions and shared the money with those in need. And they worshiped together at the temple each day, and they met in homes for the Lord's Supper, and they shared their meals with great joy and generosity. Verse 47, last verse. And all the while praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all the people. And each day the Lord added to their fellowship those who were being saved. Can I get amen this morning? So if you're taking notes today, the title of my message is Created for Community. Now, if you don't like that title, you could use a phrase I used this week towards Michael Manning, who's on staff. I said, because we were talking about just different people that we needed to reach out to. I said, Michael, people need people. So if you don't like Created for Community, you can just title this People Need People. So today, as we jump into this, you got to realize that God created all of us as relational beings. Now, I know some of you, because there's so many personality tests. There's so many different types of personalities nowadays, and the personality test will tell you what you need. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? How much people do you need? Do you really need people? Let me tell you this morning, whether you're introverted or extroverted, you need people. You were created to be a relational person. And without people, you aren't the best version of you need to be. You will never get into becoming the person that God has created you to be, the healthiest person, both not just spiritually, but mentally and physically. You won't step into that unless you have good, godly relationships in your life. God created us relational beings. And even those of you who say, well, I'm introverted, I don't need people. No, you do need people. Now, you may not need people as much as an extroverted person does, but you need people. God created you that way. Now, first of all, God created you a relational being in the sense of He created you to have a relationship with Him. That's number one. But number two, He created you to have relationships with each other. Yes, we need God. We need God. Everybody say amen to that. But we need people also. It's not either or. God set it up that way that yes, we need Him, but we need people. We need the vertical relationship with God, and we need the horizontal relationship with other people. Jesus said the two greatest commandments are what? To love God and to love other people. You need both in your life. You have to have both in your life. To be the person that God has created you to be, the healthiest version of yourself, you need relationships. Yes, with God, but with people. People need people. Now let's look at what it says in Genesis 2, very beginning of your Bible. This is the account of the creation story. In the very beginning, Genesis 2:18, look at what it says here. Then the Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper who is just right for him. Notice that God said to the man, it is not good for man to be alone. Now, up to this point, everything that God said and did, it was good. If you read the account of the creation story, it says God created the light, and it was good. God created the animals, and it was good. God created the mountains and the streams, and it was good. God created man, and it was good. But in chapter 2, very beginning, He says, it is not good that man is alone. Now, in the beginning, in the creation story, Adam was living in a perfect place. Now understand the context of this. He's living in a perfect place, in a paradise, in Eden, with God. There's no sin, there's no sickness, there's no disease, there's no depression, there's no pain. He's living in a perfect paradise, but he tells Adam, there is one thing that is not good, and it's not good that you're alone. Now, how many of you know God knows more than we know about what we need? God created us, God designed us, and he knows what's best for us. And God said in the very beginning, in a perfect condition, in a perfect paradise, God said, you need people. People need people. And God said, it's not good that we are alone. So many people say, well, I got God, I'm not alone. True, but God said, you need more than just him. God said that. He said you need other people. It is not good that you're alone. Now, how many of you know when you do it God's way, you get God's results? And if you don't do it God's way, you don't get God's results, and you face the consequences of that. When we go our own way and do our own thing, and then we get the consequences, we're always like, God, why did this happen? Why did it happen? Because you didn't do it his way. And he knows what's best for you. If he tells you to do this, it's to bring you into the best life that you're supposed to have. If God tells you to do this, it's because he knows what's best for you, because he created you. He designed you. He knows what's best for human flourishing. So when we do what God says to do, we get God's results. And God said, it is not good that you are alone. You don't just need me, you need people. People need people. Now, I don't have to tell you this, you already know this. We live in a world that loneliness is an epidemic, especially since COVID. It was happening before COVID, but COVID accelerated the isolation and loneliness that people live in. We are living in a world that is lonely and depressed and living isolated individual lives. And guess what? It's not good for us. I think God said that. It's not good that you're alone. But this is what happened, and I'll give you some stats about this. The more as our country and our world has lived isolated, individual, lonely lives, the further we have gotten in that, we have become the most unhappy and unhealthy we have ever been as a society. Why? Because it's not good that we're alone. Here's some things that happen when you are lonely and isolated from other people. Not just spiritually, but how does it affect you mentally and physically? Mentally, depression, anxiety, and suicide, it goes off the scales on the amount of people that are depressed and anxious and suicidal, and the majority of people that are in that place is because they are lonely. They're isolated. Physically, this is what happens to your physical body when you are isolated and alone. Your immune system is not as strong when you are alone. People have more physical health issues when they're lonely. It affects your heart. People have heart issues, heart attacks, cardiovascular disease, more likely when they are lonely and alone. It affects your sleep. They say that loneliness is more dangerous than obesity and even you smoking 15 cigarettes a day. To your physical health. It's not just a spiritual thing. That's the most important part of you, how it affects you spiritually. But mentally and emotionally, it hurts you when you are alone. God said, it's not good that you're alone. Physically, it hurts your physical health, your physical body when you're alone and you're isolated. I wonder why, because God said it's not good that we're alone. When we do it our own way and we ignore what God says, we get the consequences of that. But when we do it God's way, we get God's results. Now, there's different zones around the world called blue zones. You ever heard of a blue zone? Blue zones are where people live to be 100, but not just live to be 100. They live to be 100, but they're healthy, they're strong, they're mentally still strong, they're physically still strong, and they're thriving. So there's blue zones all throughout the world. There's a place in Italy, there's a place in Japan, there's a place in California. There's places all over the world where they study people that have lived to be 100 or longer, and they're healthy and strong and vibrant. One of the major factors of people that lived long and strong and healthy, guess what it was? They lived in strong community. If you do it God's way, you get God's results. Some of these people don't even know God, but they're doing the principles in God's word, and they're getting the results of what he told them to do. They lived in community. Now, let me break that down, because when I say live in community, you thought I meant they live in a neighborhood. No. We all live in a neighborhood. We all live around other houses. We all live in an apartment complex. When I say the people that live to be 100 and over and were physically healthy, mentally healthy, a part of the community, they lived in tight-knit community, that means that they went to church. They ate meals together with other people. They worked. They were still serving and a part of community and relationships. It wasn't just they lived in a house by somebody else. Because Americans, as you know, we're the most individualistic country on the planet. We don't know our neighbors. We don't know who lives next door. We don't know who's in the apartment next door. We isolate ourselves all the time. So you just living near people is not the same thing as being in community. The people that were in these blue zones that lived long and lived strong, they lived in close-knit community. That means they had friends. They got out of the house. They ate meals together. They worked. They served. They were a part of their local church or local community. They were more than just I live by people, but I am involved in sharing my life with other people closely. That's what real community means. But notice these people that lived in these blue zones. When you do it God's way, you get God's results. It affects you not just spiritually, which is the most important, but physically, mentally, and emotionally. It affects you when you have the right community and the right people in your life. You still with me? We need community and we need people. We need to believe and trust that God knows what's best for us. What's best for human flourishing. He created us and he designed us. That's why he has the right to tell us what we should do with our life. He knows. So let me take it a few steps further here. Now we're still talking about created for community. People need people. Let's look at Proverbs 18 and verse 1. You still with me today? God created you for community. You need relationships. Proverbs 18 and verse 1 in the New King James. It says, a man who isolates himself seeks his own desire, and he rages against all wise judgment. Let's look at what it says in the Amplified Bible. He who willfully separates himself from God and man seeks his own desires. He quarrels against all sound wisdom. Are you hearing these verses? Now listen to Solomon, who was the wisest man who ever lived, who wrote Proverbs. What does he say? When you isolate your life, you are asking for trouble. You are literally raging against all wisdom and sound judgment. When you live an isolated, lonely life on purpose. Now, what I've seen is a lot of people do this not because they don't have the ability to have community. They willfully isolate themselves. Why? So they can do what they want to do with no accountability. No, I'm about to step in some stuff now. Let me teach. A man who isolates himself seeks his own desires, not God's desires, and rages against all wise judgment. A lot of times, and I know I'm going to press you on this, you avoid community because you don't want anyone to call you out on your nonsense. You don't want anybody to talk to you about your drinking problem. You don't want anybody to talk to you about the porn you're watching. You don't want anybody to talk to you about the girl you're sleeping with. You isolate yourself. Why? Because you seek your own desires, but that is the most unwise and foolish thing you can do with your life. The book of Proverbs says you rage against wisdom. And guess what? You're going to get the fruits and the results of your decisions. We need community. But God does not want us to be isolated. Why? Because we are prey for the enemy. Now, you could judge me for this, but a lot of times on Saturday nights, after I'm preparing a message, I have to watch something on TV that calms me down. Like I'm not watching Jason Bourne on Saturdays. I'll watch it on Monday, but I'm not watching it before I preach. I'll be too aggressive on Sunday mornings. So you know what I like watching on Saturday nights? Something that calms me down. I like watching Planet Earth. Like watching Frozen Planet. I like watching all these nature documentaries that David Attenborough, he's the one who narrates it. You know what I'm talking about? He has the best, most amazing British voice. I watch those type of documentaries on Saturday night. Usually after I'm done with my message, I just kind of chill out and I listen to his voice and I watch nature because it's peaceful and I'm trying to calm myself before I explode on you on Sunday. Okay? Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about a man who isolates himself is not wise and seeks his own desire. But why does the enemy want to get you isolated? Because you're prey for the enemy. Listen, if the animal kingdom can figure this out, human beings should be able to figure this out. You don't have to know a lot to know that when the predator can get the prey isolated from the group, he's got the animal. Now, I was watching this a while back, and I guess you animal lovers just deal with this. We were watching Frozen. This is real life, y'all. Frozen Planet. So they were up in, I don't know where. It was the Arctic. And there was these bison, and there was just a herd of bison running. And then there was this pack of wolves. And this pack of wolves surrounded these bison. Now, the bison are a lot bigger than wolves. But there's all these wolves, and they're surrounding these bison. So there's about 30 bison, but then there's about 30 wolves. And these wolves are surrounding them. What are they trying to get them to do? They're trying to confuse the bison so they can isolate one because they can take on one if there's 30 of them. So this is what happens. They start swarming this bison, and this bison, they all get confused. And so majority of them run this way, but one runs this direction. So guess what? The wolves don't chase the pack. They don't chase the group. They go after the isolated one that seeks his own desire and rages against all wise judgment. And guess what? Within a few minutes, all 30 of those wolves have that bison dead, and they're eating him. Why? Because they look out for the one who's by itself. And I don't know what you believe about the devil or not, but there is a real devil. And demons are real. The spiritual realm is real. And guess what? He wants you to be isolated from the right community. He wants you to be isolated from the right people. He does not want you to come to church on Sunday. He does not want you to sign up for life group. He does not want any godly influences in your lives. Why? Because if he could keep you isolated, he could keep you in sin. He could keep you in addiction. He could keep you in shame. He could keep you in bondage. He could keep you depressed. He could keep you stuck. Why? Because when you're isolated, you're a prey for the devil. Proverbs said it, when you isolate it, you are not wise. You're literally asking for it. It's like you got to sign up to the devil. I'm by myself. Come get me. That's the way it is for the enemy. He loves that. It's the same way in Planet Earth when there's sharks swarming seals. And then they get one seal who wants to pastor themselves at Coffee Crossing, who doesn't need a local church, who refuses to get in life groups, who is an internet prophet, who says, I don't need to come to church, I'll just watch 10 churches' live streams and that'll be my church. Not the same. You're isolated. You are asking for it. And guess what they do? The sharks keep swarming all the seals, and there's 30 seals, and they're fighting them off. But guess what? They get one lone seal who wants to do his own thing, baby. I don't need nobody. I got this. No, you don't got this. I don't care how strong you think you are, man or woman. You don't got this by yourself, and you are dumb. What does unwise mean? You're dumb. That's a Message translation. You're unwise. You are a fool when you isolate yourself. You're asking for it. So the sharks swarm and they get the one seal, the lone seal. And he's done. But if he just would have stayed in the group, he would have been safe. Hear me, church. There's safety in numbers. There's safety in numbers. You think it's just a natural thing? No, it's not. When you come to church and all of us are together and we're praying for each other and we're helping each other and we're encouraging each other, guess what? There's safety in numbers. Safety in numbers. When you're in groups and people know your business and you know other people's business because you're trying to help each other, you're praying for each other, you're encouraging each other, you're praying for each other's kids and marriage, and you're helping them out if they need help financially and vice versa, and you're a part of their life together, you are in a safe place. Safety in numbers. But if you're by yourself, you're unwise. And you're prey for the enemy. Do you know this? Most of the times when we sin, we are by ourselves. Why? Why are we tempted when we're by ourselves? Because we're alone. You guys aren't tempted to watch porn right now in this sanctuary. You know why? There's all of us here. But Thursday afternoon when you're by yourself, why does the enemy talk to you then and not now? Because there's safety in numbers. That's just one of hundreds of examples I could give you. I tell you what, the most times in my life that I was discouraged and depressed and anxious, guess what? It wasn't here. It was when I was by myself. Why? Why does the enemy target you when you're by yourself? Because you're prey for the enemy. Don't live isolated. Don't live alone. Don't live lonely, isolated lives. Why? Because it rages against all wise judgment. People need people. Some of you are like, I need to make some major changes in my life. Well, don't keep being by yourself. Let people into your life. Pastor, I need help in these areas. Okay, the first step is get with the herd. Get with the tribe. Get with the group. Because there's safety in number. There's strength with the numbers. When you're weak, somebody else could be strong for you and vice versa. There's strength in the group. But realize God knows this. That's why he put it in his word through Solomon in Proverbs. He knows, though, when we're alone, when we're isolated, we are asking for it because the enemy always goes after the isolated one. But in the book of Psalms, it says, God's answer to that is he sets the lonely in families. He sets the lonely in families. Now, what is the family in the Bible? The family is the local church. The house of God is the family of God. Now, I don't know about your natural family. Could be great, could be bad, could be, I don't know. It could be a lot of things. We all come from different backgrounds. But here's the good news. Whether your family isn't good or it's great, you have the choice as an adult to choose your family. There's your family of blood and there's your family of choice. And God has made the local church available no matter what your background is with your family. He will set you into a place where you don't have to be alone. You don't have to be isolated. You can have a spiritual family. Now, I'm not saying ignore your blood relatives, people that you're related to. But I am saying God has given us a choice to make, and we can choose our family, the family of God. That's why He put the local church in place. That no one would be isolated and alone, that the house of God would be a family. No matter what their background, no matter what their family. That's why He sets the lonely in families, because people need people. Now, we created life groups at this church because we didn't want anyone in this church to feel alone. We don't want anybody in this church to feel alone. I don't want anyone to feel alone in this church. I don't want anyone to feel like they don't have anyone. That's why we created life groups. It was a practical way that everyone could get involved and start meeting people, start having relationships, start having community. And we know our greatest desire as humans is to know other people and to be known by other people. And a lot of times that does not happen unless we are intentional about it. That's why we created life groups, so that people could find family. They could find community. They could know others and be known by other people. Or the alternative is, and I've seen this because I've grown up in church my whole life, before we did life groups, this is something I saw that concerned me. There are so many people in our church that went to church with each other 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, and they didn't know anything about that person. Let me tell you, as your pastor, that ain't community. And I didn't want our church, because I know that's not God's will or God's best, to be a superficial church community where people just go to church together and all they know about the person is who they see on Sunday morning for a few hours, where they say hi and bye and God bless you. That's how people act. Is that genuine? Is that the way you really laugh in your real life? No, it's not. I'd rather you just cuss and tell me how you're doing than be fake. That's the community I'm creating now. Whoa, I shouldn't have said that. Everybody's like, Pastor, beep. Okay, no, that's not what I meant. Pastor said we could cuss. No, that's not what I meant. I meant be real. Thank you, Jared. Be genuine. Let somebody in. But then I started getting reports back once we started doing life groups, and people were like, I've been in church with this person for 20 years, and I'm so glad because I finally know them. I didn't know them before this. I didn't know the names of their kids. I didn't know where they worked. I didn't know what they liked. I've never even seen their house. And now all these people you've known for so long, you're like, wow. And the feeling of that, what is that feeling? That you're knowing people and you're being known. And it's exciting because you're really being a part of community. Not just I live next to people or I go to church with people, but I know people and people know me. That's real community. And that's why we created life groups, so we could go beyond the superficial Sunday morning, hi, bye, God bless, I'm so highly favored. Well, if you are, that's great. But most of you, I don't know. But being real and being genuine and like knowing people, like knowing their lives and their kids and where they live and what they do and their passions and their fears and what they need prayer about. That's doing life together. And you know what? That is the call of the local church. That's what we all need. That's what we all desire. And you do realize this, if you don't get it in the local church, there's a lot of places that are trying to do the same thing we're doing. Why do you think clubs exist? Not just dance clubs, but country clubs. Why do you think all these different hobbies and clubs and committees and groups form? Because they're looking for community. But guess what? I appreciate all those things, but the main one you need is the community of the local church. Because at some level, they will meet certain needs, but they won't meet all the true needs you have because it's not spiritual. It's not getting to the root of the issue. That's why we need the local church. The local church is the family of God on the earth. It's the community of God. We all need that. It's not good that we're alone. It's not good that we isolate. Why? Because it seeks our own desires and raises against all wise judgment. Are you doing good? Okay, I got a few more things. Oh, it's about to get spicier. I'll drink to that. Now, y'all don't start cussing. Some of y'all, that's all I needed to say. You're like, Pastor said it. That's not what I meant. I would say the two biggest issues I see with church people or Christians are that's holding them back. Well, really not just Christians, anybody. Is either they have no community in their life or they have wrong community in their life. Yeah, it got really quiet on that one. Pastor, don't talk about my friends. I'm about to. The thing I see holding more people back in the church and outside the church, Christian or non-Christian, is they either have nobody, so that's not good to be in that place when you're isolated, but they have the wrong community and people in their life. Now, we have to understand this, that we can't do life with everyone. So we have to choose. But here's the thing with that. The people we are closest to in life, we will become like. The people we choose to do life with, we will become like. We will become like the people that are closest to us in our life. But we all have a limited amount of people that can be. So we have to choose. They've done research on this, and they say that most people can really only have about 5 really close relationships. Now, out of those 5 people, you are the average of those 5 people in the other areas of your life. Let me explain that. Why? Because you become like the people you're around. If you took the 5 people closest to you, you are financially in the same range as all those people. Why? Because you become like the people you're closest to. If you took their mental health and their physical health, you're an average of the 5 people closest to you. If you took an account of their spiritual life and you looked at the people that are closest to you, you're an average of the spiritual health of the 5 closest people around you. If you took the marriage of the 5 people closest to you, you're an average of their marriage. Now, if that makes you happy, then you have the right friends. If you're scared for your life right now, you got the wrong ones. And let me be honest with you, most of you got a little bit of like, oh, Jesus. If I am the average of the 5 people closest to me in all those areas, I need to get some new friends. And yes, you do. Because we will become like the people we are closest to. Either those people can help heal us or they can hurt us. Either those people can help us grow in our life or they can keep us stuck. But either way, you will become like the people closest to you. Now, let me give you a few verses. Proverbs 13 and verse 20. Proverbs 13 and 20. He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. Look at it in the Passion Bible. If you want to grow in wisdom, spend time with the wise. Walk with the wicked and you'll eventually become just like them. The Message Bible. Become wise by walking with the wise. Hang out with fools and watch your life fall into pieces. It's important that not only are we not isolated and alone, but it's important that we don't have the wrong community and the wrong people, because we will become like them. When you walk with the wise, you will become wise. You walk with the fools, you'll become a fool. How many of you know, and this has been said since the beginning of time, when someone starts going down a wrong path, someone ends up in addiction, someone ends up in jail, someone ends up losing their job, someone ends up doing all sorts of things, going the wrong way. Someone gets out of church and is living a crazy life and all the above. How does the conversation always start? Well, they were a good person, but then they started hanging out with. Every one of them. They were a good person, but then they started hanging out with. Because you become like the people you're around. You walk with the wise, you become wise. You walk with fools, you become fools. Any person who went down the path of addiction, whether that's alcohol, drugs, porn, or anything else, somebody else was involved in that. And you started becoming like the people you're around. Are you with me? Any bad decisions we've made, a lot of times people have been involved in that. It's important that we are not around the wrong community and the wrong people. Because just like being isolated and alone isn't good for us, the wrong community will hurt us just as bad. So we have to choose, because we can't do life with everybody. We have to be very specific on who we let into our circle, in our group, in our life. And like I said, if you look at the average of the 5 people around you and you're like, I don't want what their finances look like. I don't want their marriage. I don't want their physical health. I don't want their mental state. Then change. If it concerns you because all 5 people in your life are spiritually dry and dead and backslidden, you need to change friends. Because you're going to be stuck, because you'll become like the people you are around. Well, thank you, Pastor, for telling me the truth this morning. I appreciate that. All right. I'm going to stay on that point because the excitement just blew me over in my seat. But you know, at this time in my life, the people I let in my circle is very, very tiny. Very tiny. Morgan can barely get in. I mean, it's tiny, y'all. Joking. Kinda. You know why? You know why? Because I believe what the Word says. And I want to become the person that God has created me to be, to do what God has created me to do. And I can't stay around people that are stuck. People that are small-minded. People that don't want more of God. They don't want spiritual things. They don't want to grow in their finances. They don't want to grow in their marriage. They don't want to grow in their mental health. They don't want to grow in their physical health. They're just good maintaining and being stuck. I ain't got time for people like that. And your pastor should not be the only one in the room that feels that way. You got to let some people go. You got to cut some people out. Because just like being alone will hurt you, the wrong community and people will destroy your life. You walk with the wise, you'll become wise. You want to keep hanging around fools, you'll be destroyed. You will. I've seen it thousands of times. Listen, I've been in church my whole life. Thousands of times. Always somebody. There's always a who. There's always somebody. It's so important that not only do we have the right people, but we are making sure that the people that we're choosing to be in our circle, in our group, in our life, are the right people, not the wrong community that's keeping us stuck. Now, I'm gonna close because you guys are getting sensitive. So, Now, what do I mean by I'm going to close? Sometime in the next hour or so. I didn't mean like 5 minutes, but when we talk about this, I know what you guys are thinking. And there's a lot of excuses going on in all your brains right now. I already know it. I've been there. Don't play games with me. I know what you're thinking. Some of you in here, you're thinking, man, I can't cut them out. Pastor, what kind of life you want to have? What kind of future you want to have? What kind of marriage do you want to have? What kind of finances you want to have? What kind of physical health you want to have? What kind of mental state you want to have? What kind of life do you want to have? Because if you walk with the wise, you'll become wise. If you walk with fools, you'll be destroyed. You got to be very picky and specific on who you let in your life. Now, lucky for you, God put you in a local church with a lot of good options. Because that's where you find the people. Guess what? You don't find your best friends at the local bar. I love you, but let me be honest with you. That's not where they're at. They're in the local church. They're in the local church. But some of you are like, well, I can't let them go. We've always known each other. We're family, man. They're funny. Watch a comedian on Netflix, man, and get new friends. We all go down those trails. I can't give them up. Why? Because you got a soul tie with them. You've known them so long. They're my friend. They're my family. We've been together. We used to get drunk together in college. That's my dude. We had this one experience at a party on spring break. That's my girl. I can't let her go. I got to keep these wine nights going. We have to do this. No, you don't. And if you continue to do that, guess where your life will become? It will go down the same path that theirs is. If you walk with the wise, you become wise. If you're a companion to fools, it will be destroyed. The message says, watch your life fall into pieces. It's real simple. It's real simple. Now, there's an encouragement coming here because you guys are like, where's the encouragement coming, Pastor? No, you're dismissed. That's all I had to say. Just wanted to vent. Here's the truth of this. If you separate from the wrong community and the wrong people, if you make a break, now listen to me. I'm not saying cut everyone off in your life and say like, get out of my life, man, I hate your guts, you're keeping me back. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying you guys already know, when I'm talking right now, you got people you're thinking of. When you take the step to make some space between you and them and say, I need to get around the right people and you're not the right person. I need right community. I need healthy community because I'm trying to live a different life. I want a better future. I want to go a different direction. I don't want to be like everybody else that's stuck and depressed and sad and struggling. I want a different life. Well, you got to hang around different people. It's not going to happen by accident. You're doing the same old. You're going to stay in that cycle. You got to break it. You got to let some people go. Stop making excuses for them. Especially at this point in life. Y'all, we all adults now. It's not funny now. It's not cool now. Y'all, when we're teenagers is one thing, but everyone in this room, you're an adult. Make the wise choice. We go back to college, man, I can't give this dude up. Let it go, frat boy. Get married. Become godly. Stop looking at porn. Do something with your life. Stop trying to relive your teenage years when you're an idiot. Grow up. Too straight? I'm going to put my foot up on that one. Grow up. And you know the truth is too, those same people will come in church, men and women. They'll raise their hands and I'm like, God, I want your best. God, I want you to move in my life. I want you to move in my marriage. I want you to move in my kids. And then you're going to go back to those same old people. It's got to keep you stuck. You really don't want God's best because you know you got to let some people go. All you new people that have been coming to church here, this is how I really talk. You haven't heard me talk like this yet. You know why do I talk this way? Because I've seen thousands and thousands of people's life destroyed because of hanging with the wrong people, wrong community. Here's the good news. Every time I've chose to move forward in my life, God, hear me, because I know some of you are scared. What am I going to do? I'm not going to have any more friends. I could never find someone as good as that friend. Lies. Every time I've chose to move forward with my life, God has brought the right people into my life. Every time. Every time. God has brought better people in my life, better friends, godly friends, friends going the right direction, friends wanting to pursue God and to pursue business and to pursue their marriage and pursue their kids and be the dad they're called to be and the husband they're called to be and to be a man of God. Every time I chose to let go of people, and we all feel that we're afraid. What am I going to do? I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be alone on Friday nights. You might have to be for a season, but it's better than hanging out with the wrong people. It is. But hear me this morning. Every time you make that step, and what is that? That's a step of faith. And if you really trusted God, you say, God, I believe your ways are right and your ways are true. And if you're telling me to do this, I'm going to let go of the wrong community, the wrong people hold me back. And I'm going to make the right friends, the right community. Hear me this morning. God will bring the right people in your life if you trust Him. He will. He'll bring people better than you could have ever imagined before. He will. But you got to trust Him. Brother Daryl, come play so you can rescue me from this church. Thank you. Lastly, I had to say it like I felt it this morning. Now, why do I talk like that? Because I love you. Speaking the truth in love, I'm trying to avoid years and decades of heartache and pain. You can get it right now, whether you're 18 in here or you're 88, you can get what I'm saying. And it will help your life. So talking about community, what do we say? God created you for community. It's not good that you're alone. That's why He sets the lonely in families. What is a family? The local church. But it's also not good that we have the wrong community and the wrong people in our lives. Because when we walk with the wise, where are you going to find wise people at? The local church. Where are you going to find godly people at? The local church. Where are you going to find people that are trying to pursue a better marriage and to be the husband and the mother they're called to be? The local church. I love you, but it's not the bars. It's not the club. It's not. It's not. And I don't want wrong community to hold you back. When God says, I've given you a way to find the right people and the right friends in your life, and it's the local church. Now, hear me. I'm not saying you're only friends. I'm not saying cut out everyone who doesn't go to church. That's not what I'm saying at all. You need to have people outside of church that you know and love. I'm not saying cut everybody out. You need to have friends that don't know God and don't believe what you believe in. But I am saying the closest people to you need to be people going the right direction. The direction that you want your life to go. How about you do this? You look around and you're like, I like the fruit that's in your life. Can I be friends with you? You see other people in this church, you all got a good marriage. Can we be friends with you? I mean, you're doing a great job raising your kids. Can we be friends with you? Hey, shout out. I just want to say, Janet and Justin have some of the best, well-trained kids in this church. I'm just saying, if you have child issues, go to Janet and Justin. Because they doing something right over there. I don't know what they doing right, but they doing something right. Financially, if there's people in this church who are like, hey, you do a good job owning your business and taking care of your finances. Can we be friends? Why? Because when you walk with the wise, you get wiser. You walk with fools, you'll be destroyed. In the book of Acts, chapter 2, we read it at the beginning. This was the first 3,000 believers on the first day of the church. And it said that all of them immediately started to get into community. Notice when they got into Christ, they got into community. There's no such thing as separating Jesus from his church. I know it's cool. I know it's trendy. I know it's on TikTok to share your church hurt memes about how I just need Jesus but not the church. But you need both. Because the church is the bride of Christ. The church is the body of Christ. The church is the family of God. And I'm sorry if you've been hurt by other churches and church people. You will, because they're humans. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because you still need the local church. The local church is still the hope of the world. The church is still the city set on the hill that cannot be hidden. This church is still the solution to the world's problems in this earth. We are the church. But notice when they came into Christ, the early church didn't say, well, that's great. Y'all got Jesus. Y'all don't need anything else. When they came into Christ, they put them into community. Why? Because that's where they could grow up. They didn't just need Christ. They needed community. They just didn't need God. They needed people. So do we. To grow, to change, to become all we're called to be. And it said they fellowship. This word fellowship is the word koinonia in the Greek. It means to have intimate, close relationships. It means to share your life, your interest with one another. Sometimes this word is translated communion. Like we just had communion when we took the cracker and the juice for the blood and the body. But that's the kind of intimacy this word fellowship brings with us. Not that I just go to church with them, but that I know them and they know me, and it's an intimate, close relationship. We're sharing our life together, and our families are sharing our life together. We're sharing meals together. We're going to the park together, and we're calling each other when we need help, and we're not living in our little bubbles, so isolated from each other. That's no life at all. And it says that this early church fellowship, it was an ongoing activity. It's the way they lived. It wasn't like a one-time fellowship at church. We're going to bring chili. It was an ongoing, daily communion, fellowship with each other. Not a once a week or a every other month church picnic. It was deep, intimate friendships. But guess what? You can't get into fellowship like that unless you want to. And guess what? Even if everyone else in this church wants a relationship with you like that and you don't want one, you won't have it. Community takes you being vulnerable, takes you opening yourself up to it, saying, yeah, God, I need you, but I need other people in my life. It's amazing how your life will start changing and growing, and how it will help you when you have the right people in your life, sharing your life together with them. It says in the early church, they met at the temple. That was the large gathering. That's what you're doing right now. And they met from house to house. That's life group. They didn't just come on Sundays for 2 hours and then never talk to anybody the rest of the week. They did their life together. They went to the park together. They ate their meals together. They prayed together. They gave together. They lived a life outside the four walls of the church together. house to house. And then it says, because the community around the local church in Jerusalem saw what they liked, and they said, how are you guys doing this kind of community? Because you got people that are young, people that are old, you got black, you got white, you got Asian, you got Latino, you got Native American, you got all sorts of different people involved in the early church. And the early church was multicultural, multi-generational, multi-ethnic. Even when it came to money, there was rich people, there was middle class, there was poor, and that's how the church should be, because it's a family. But when the people in Jerusalem and in Rome saw the early church like that, they said, we want to be a part of that. And what was the byproduct? The Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved. Y'all, did you hear that? That means people were getting together daily and coming to Christ. Daily. Not just every week on a Sunday, but daily. And as you know, the church grew from 5,000 to 10,000 to 50,000 to 100,000 to the place it is today. And literally the past 2,000 years of the world has been because of the church. The West as we know it is because of the church. All the good things that we experience that we think, well, that's an American idea or that's a Western idea. No, it's because of the church. Because that small group 2,000 years ago in the book of Acts started living this way, doing life together. It wasn't enough just for a Sunday gathering. They did their life together. Let it be the same for us, that we wouldn't be isolated and alone. We don't have to be. God sets the lonely in families. And we wouldn't have the wrong community and people that are holding us back. But we find the right community, the healthy community in the local church. We're not perfect, but we're heading the right direction. We're all trying to grow here. We're all trying to get better here. We're all trying to be all we can in God. And that's the kind of people you need to be around. Let's read one last verse and we'll close. Acts 2. Thank you for being with me. I talked long today. Those who believed what Peter said were baptized and added to the church that day, about 3,000 in all. And all the believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to sharing the meals, including the Lord's Supper, and to prayer. We've been talking about prayer on Sundays. And a deep sense of awe came over all of them. And the apostles performed many miraculous signs and wonders. And all the believers met together in one place, shared everything they had. They sold their property and possessions and shared their money with those in need. And they worshiped together at the temple each day and met in homes for the Lord's Supper and shared their meals with great joy and generosity. All the while praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all the people. And each day, the Lord added to their fellowship. What's their fellowship? That intimate relationship, sharing of life with each other. And those, he added to their fellowship, those who were being saved. Isn't that good? Hey, so